as Good as Mozart by Grace Nell Wilson. About three-quarters through Mozart's Elvira Madigan Suite, renamed from a movie of all things a century and 76 years after his death, Christine Caravaggio left the sheet music and tore off someplace only she had been on the magic Steinway keys. At first, no one in the audience seemed to notice. Then, as it dawned on the aficionados of Concerto Number 21 in C major, there came a trickle of whispers. From her place on the stage, she caught a fleeting glance at the Academy's dean, Mr. Chambers, and his supercilious wife. They were obviously rankled. What she would have given to see ancient Miss Adelman in her customary place in the tiny reserved balcony by herself, program rolled up, eyebrows raised to heaven with mortification. But the angle and the glare of the stage left footlights prevented it. She had warned the old woman. A pianist, especially a gifted one, could not live on Mozart, Schubert, and Chopin alone, even at 17 years old. Everyone, including Miss Adelman, had seen the small cardboard sign she had lettered calligraphically in her room. It read, "What if I am as good as Mozart?" Now she was going about proving it to her elderly teacher and mentor. And now she would never be mentioned by the woman in the same breath as her most renowned prodigy, Rachel Karpinski. Ms. Adelman's chief claim to concert fame, playing the old masters, adding lips to the big three on tour after international tour. Now she would be remembered as the renegade student with special gifts and a monumental ego to carry them in. So what, she thought, as she played with impeccable precision her own composition, and the audience began to come around, begrudgingly at first, but by the home stretch, embracing it all, the flourishes, the nuances of her marvelous work, and the way she played it with such grace and consummate skill. And the applause afterward was thunderous, magnificent in even so small a setting as the Academy's intimate recital hall. In the dressing room, she basked as teachers, all except Miss Adelman, and fellow students crowded around to toast her daring, her courage to take solo flight from the recognized greatness of Wolfgang Amadeus. And then there was Mr. Chambers and his stuffy wife, elbowing their way to the front of the class. "Well, what about it, Mr. Chambers?" she asked with neither a trace of nervousness nor humility. "Am I as good as Mozart?" A derisive laugh burst forth from Mr. Chambers into her startled face. "One sweet little work and you're as good as Mozart. Why, the 7-year-old Mozart would have torn up the sheet music to it in the wink of a tinkle of his father's piano." Christine was taken aback in the glory of her great moment, and so were most of the onlookers. But, what did Miss Adelman think? Her hurt feelings demanded to know. "Miss Adelman is dead. We found her slumped over in her seat. Dr. Harrington was my guest tonight. He could not revive her." A massive hush descended upon the small dressing room. "But don't be so arrogant as to blame yourself," he continued with unabated disgust. Her heart was weak to begin with. It chose tonight to give out completely. He started to say something more, but suddenly cut himself short and stormed off with his wife, leaving Christine Caravaggio as bereft as Elvira Madigan, only not as beautiful in her bereavement.